Welcome to the Voice of Counseling, presented by the American Counseling Association. This special episode is hosted by Dr. Courtland Lee. This week's episode is Becoming Dr. S. Kent Butler and features a special interview with ACA President Dr. S. Kent Butler.
Welcome to the Voice of Counseling from the American Counseling Association. I'm Dr. Courtland Lee, today's guest host, and for today's episode, I will be interviewing Dr. S. Kent Butler. Dr. Butler is currently serving as the 70th president of the American Counseling Association. He's a professor of counselor education and the interim chief equity, inclusion, and diversity officer at the University of Central Florida. He's also a licensed professional counselor, nationally certified counselor, and a nationally certified school counselor. On the national level, Dr. Butler has served as the 2011-2012 president of the Association for Multicultural Counseling and Development, AMCD, and was honored to be a member of AMCD's Multicultural Counseling Competency Revisions Committee, which produced the ACA and AMCD endorsed multicultural social justice counseling competencies. His research and academic interests lie in the areas of multicultural and international counseling, social justice, mentoring, group counseling, school counseling, multicultural supervision, and counseling work with African American males. Good morning, Dr. Butler.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. So I'm going to jump right into this. Usually when we do things like this, we're really kind of interested in people's professional careers. And I just went over a lot of your professional accomplishments. But this morning, I'd really like to get behind all that, kind of really explore how you got here and how you got to be who you are as Dr. S. Kent Butler. So I want to start, because I've heard some of your presentations, and you referred to the experience of generations of your family growing up in and around Connecticut. At what point in your life did you realize that you look different from many of those you grew up with? And how do you think that impacted you, both professionally and personally?
That's a very deep question to start off with. How I felt differently about the folks I was growing up around. I was pretty much a very quiet kid. I did a lot around the house. I did a lot with family. But when it came to like my peers and things along those lines, while I had friends and I got along with them well, I was kind of the quiet kid. I was always the one who wanted to do the right thing because I had that inkling that my parents would not like it if I did something that wasn't, kosher. But it wasn't really until I would say that I got out of college that I realized that I was doing things differently. In the middle of it, I didn't know. I thought I was just being a normal kid and that was what kids did. And I was planning on going to college and that was going to be the state of my affairs, so to speak. But when I got to college, I realized that a lot of the people that I grew up with weren't going to college and were still staying in my old neighborhood, doing the same old things that they were doing. And my trajectory was different. And I had no plans. I didn't know what it was, but I will tell you that my mom had an MBA. And so I think that was part of the drive as well. A lot of my friends' parents were basically just hard workers working, different shifts and things along those lines. But I don't know. I can look back. I was thinking the other day about it, and I can look back and say that my friends' parents weren't necessarily all educated at the college level. And so I had a little bit of a leg up, so to speak. And when I think about it across generations, that's an important thing. I got to see college growing up where I don't know a lot of my friends did.
Let me ask you a sort of an Adberian type question. Where are you in the birth order in your immediate family?
I am the second child born of three, and which makes me a middle child, and the only son.
Okay. How do you think that being the middle child, going along with this Adleria note, how do you think being the middle child and being the only son impacted you in any way?
Oh, enormously. My oldest sister is 2 years older than I am. My youngest sister is 6 years younger than I am. And I felt as though I was my youngest sister's parent, if that makes sense. Not really early on in her life, but as I started getting to be a teenager and getting more responsibilities, it became my sole responsibility to like be her chauffeur. And so we hit it off.
Mhm.
My sister, I have a good relationship with both of my sisters, but I am definitely more in sync with my younger sister. And I think it's because we spent so much time together.
You said your mom was an MBA. What kind of messages did you get from her about, the kinds of things that one needs to hear in terms of one's development? What kind of messages did you get growing up from your mom?
So my mother was a hard worker, and she got her MBA while I was in elementary school going into middle school. She was a night school attendee, so to speak. And so she was already working, and she was going to night school. So she already showed up by watching her study at the kitchen table. All that was like really important. I didn't have the mom that was always, his moms were doing stuff and going out and having stuff, partying and all that other stuff. And my mom was studying. And then when she got into working full time after she got her degree, because she was already working, she just would come home with stories about what it was like to work in industry. And she worked at a place called the Southern New England Telephone Company. She was a very high up manager in there. And she would come home with not horror stories, but stories about industry and how she was regarded and how she was treated. And early on, I wanted to be a corporate lawyer. That was my desire. I didn't have anything to do with counseling or anything along those lines. But I used to hear her come home with these different stories saying how she was being treated, how things were going, how she was passed over, how people were getting all these different things going on. And so I really soured to wanting to be in business. And so when I got to college, I started off pre-law, and it quickly changed to me actually looking at communications. And ended up graduating with a communications degree and thinking that I wanted to be a television anchor. And so that was my hope. And those things didn't work out. I became a counselor along the lines years later and find that this was probably the better career for me.
Do you think that your mom's challenges, being a African American woman in corporate America at the time she was dealing with those challenges, influences your current DE&I work?
Oh, definitely. And more so after my mom passed away, did I realize it. There were some things that happened in my mom's life and my father's life, to tell you the truth, that I found out later in life. And I wish I had the intellect or the ability to have questioned or asked or talked about a lot of the things that she went through. And because of it, I'm doing these things retroactively in my own career to not only satisfy what I hoped would be for her life, but also for mine and now my daughter's, because I often talk about, the fact that my mom's journey could have been shut off at age 10. And had that happened, I wouldn't be here. And that's very sobering. It's a very sobering thought to think that somebody didn't want my mother to live. at the age of 10. And that would have had an impact on the world or the generations to come, which included me in the picture. And so I wish I had the opportunity. I wish I had the ability to know this when my mother was keeping very quiet about it. She didn't share those things with me. And I think it was because she wanted to shield us. She wanted us not let us know all of the things that were happening to them, especially growing up, because they were hopeful that the times would change and that we had a better future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fascinating. I mean, you speak so much about what we can consider timeline paradoxes and what could have happened in the past and how it impacts the present. Yeah. Certainly, but it sounds like listening to this, a lot of who you are and what you're about as a professional can be tied into those early experiences, which certainly makes sense. Let me shift gears for a minute here. I've been in quite a few meetings with you, this past Zoom meetings like this, the past year in the setting that you're sitting in. And I'm always fascinated by the background there and the things that you have hanging on the walls and in the bookshelf there. So I'm going to give you a chance now to share a little more personal stuff with our audience. So I see the books, I see the pictures of Malcolm, and I can't see who else is in that picture back there, but there's Malcolm, and it looks like Barack is in that picture, Martin Luther King, looks like Nelson Mandela.
Yes,
and I see
all four.
I'm sorry?
All four of those.
Yeah, okay. Tell us a little bit, if you can, about what's the most significant things that we see in the background there.
Oh, wow. I grew up in a house full of artifacts that reminded me that I was African American and that I was from the continent of Africa. I had that descent. My mom used to keep a lot of little figurines, All God's Children. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of those. And they symbolized life. They really were carvings of things that really showcased, just what life was. And I have a few of them here that I also started to collect as well. And they just showcased little boys growing up. And, there was one that I have that has me, or I call it me, as a graduate with a, diploma in my hand and the garb on. And so I started to collect along those lines. And so the things behind me kind of represent that. So there's there's things that people have purchased for me, and there are things that people have given me. So there's some awards back there that I put there because those were things that I didn't expect. There's one up on the shelf in my, I guess it would be my left shoulder. It looks like an eagle. And that was given to me by presidents of AMCD for my service to them as a conference chairperson. And it's entitled Wind Beneath My Wings. And so those were things that I didn't expect that was given to me, which is how I feel about awards in the first place. So that's whole nother story. And so those things mean so much to me that I have them up behind me as a constant reminder of who I am and what I hope to be for the world. The other pieces, Mandela and all those, when I got a chance to travel to South Africa, I learned more about Mandela's story. Not that I didn't know about it prior, but going to Robben's Island and standing where he was imprisoned for so long, I got to meditate on what life really is about and why I should be doing the work that I'm doing, especially with regards to social justice. And I watched what all these men were doing, Malcolm and what Martin were doing, and I shouldn't be calling them by their first names, but these individuals really impacted me growing up. And then to be in this position as a president and watch what happened and what was going on in the life of Barack Obama while he was president. I'm close in age. I felt every disrespect that he received during his presidency, and him trying to be a leader, him trying to be an intelligent leader, to have people to come in and change his narrative and to tell things that weren't necessarily flattering for him as an African-American male, the first person to achieve what he has achieved with regards to leadership of the United States. And so those things were really important for me to highlight, because I stand on those shoulders, very much like I stand on your shoulders. There are so many individuals who I love to pay homage to. And then over I can't even tell, but there's a ladder that reaches up towards the sky. And I don't know if you can see that visual, but it's a person climbing the stairs. And that just reminds me that you always have to keep striving to be your best and to do your best. And to not be selfish with it, right? To do it for the world, so to speak. And I don't know what my reach is, but I do know that it's outside of my own self-serving self that I do the work that I do. And then there's an elephant that's up there or on top of the bookshelf. And that elephant was given to me years ago from my aunt. It's a leather elephant. I don't know where it came from. She hadn't traveled, but for some reason she wanted me to have it. And the symbolization of an elephant for me is a person who doesn't fit in. And, I don't know that I always fit in my life. But I know that the story that I tell now is that elephant goes into spaces and shakes things up and helps to kind of create the types of opportunities for others, right? I wrote about it when I was running for ACA president, the story of the elephant and the giraffe, and how the giraffe has the house that's kind of created for himself and doesn't have room for anyone else. There's no inclusion. And the elephant comes in and shakes things up a little bit and says, hey, I'm here. You have to see me. You have to allow space for me as well. And so the elephant, my aunt didn't know that, but she, and now I'm getting emotional. I never connected it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Wow. The other thing that's always fascinated me in meetings with you is that flag that's draped over the chair there. Can you tell us a little bit about that flag, the significance of that flag?
I put that flag in that chair purposefully. That chair is a chair that my mom used to have in her house. And I think you're doing your best to make me a very emotional person today. So that chair symbolizes strength and my mom. I wanted to have a piece of her always with me. There are many things that I have, but that chair is always going to be in my life. She brought that chair in. She had it reupholstered. She did certain things with it, and it just has a great meaning for me. The flag, I was watching something during the pandemic about Black Lives Matters, and I saw someone holding the flag up. It was a picture, it was a very stark picture during the middle of the movement. And I just had to order one. And I tried to figure out how can I put it somewhere so that it can look like a flag. And I have a coat rack back there as well. It didn't look right draped off with the coat rack. And I just knew that I wanted it there. So I said, okay, let it be in its fullness on a chair that I love. And there you have it.
For our audio only listeners, could you describe the flag a little bit? Because in actuality, they can't see it. Just
Yeah,
a little brief.
it's a flag that represents the African American community in America. It's an American flag. It is adorned with red, black, and green, and it's, there's a lot of talk about whether or not people should claim themselves as African American. Why don't they just be American? Um, I I am my roots, and so I must showcase them. I showcase them in what I wear. Uh, I showcase them in how I represent myself, and so it's just really important to do that. Um, I I believe that me paying attention to my past, my ancestors, gives me strength to continue to do the work that I do. When I watch what had happened to many of my ancestors, many, of course, who I don't know, um, going through the rough times that they've had in the passage from Africa to America, the slavery, the things that happened with my own mom and my own father growing up. Um, all those things are things in which I stand strong and firm on, and I feel needs to be told. So when I hear conversations about critical race theory and all these other things that want to deny me what is my right, my birthright, to know and understand, to do a DNA test to find out that I'm from Liberia and by my roots. All those things were important for me to understand, and really kind of represent the person who I hope to be. And what I want to pass on to my daughter and to my stepson and to others about, be proud of who you are.
Mhm.
We acculturate to so much to be an American citizen that we forget who we are. And I don't want to ever forget that. And so all those things behind me are a constant reminder. I often share that every time I walk out of my house that I know that I'm an African-American male, and when I'm walking into a world that may or may not accept me, but I also walk back into a home that's very cozy and reminds me that I'm an African-American male and I have a right to be here.
Absolutely. You mentioned your daughter Summer,
Yeah.
who's in elementary school now. My, how time flies.
Yeah.
Could you share with us a little bit more about your hopes for her and whether you think she should follow in her mom and dad's footsteps and become a part of the counseling profession?
Um, well, Summer very much likes the arts, and so being a counselor, I don't know if that's really part of her future, but I will tell you that um, we raised her to know what we do and to appreciate her and us in our existence. So she's very much has known that we work at a university. She very much knows that we travel to do different things, conferences, and early on we took her to conferences with us, and still will, because we didn't have anybody. We lived in areas where there was no one who was going to watch our child for us when we were gone, and then we were very protective because I'm an older parent. So very protective of her and wanted her to be with us. So we made sure that things that she needed to know from her schooling was always there. We were always on top of it in terms of talking with her teachers and saying, hey, we're getting ready to travel. She's going to be coming with us. What do we need to know? How can we stay on top of this? And so things along those lines. And I just wanted to show her, just that the world could be hers and that anything that she wanted could be hers. She's been in so many different states, and she's been to Hawaii with us. She's been, to the islands. So she's been in more states probably than my wife, based on some of the things, the travels that she has gone. And I want her to see the world. I want her to know that she can do anything. And every day we affirm her. We tell her that she's a beautiful Black girl. We tried to align her life with things, books and stories, and we look up to figures like Kamala Harris and other things so she can be proud of herself and know that she belongs. She has every she has everything at her disposal. And I'm probably give her more than I should in terms of spoiling her, but I also want her to know that she has to work hard, and she knows that. And so there's a lot that comes with this parenting thing. And I also still try to shield her and from the world, but it's very hard to do with the internet and all the things that are coming up now, you know. So she's affected. I see that she's affected by the things that are happening with Black Lives Matter. I see that she's affected by, even what's happening with Ukraine. So, sometimes anxiety creeps in. And so we try to keep her grounded and let her know that she's going to be okay and that the world's going to be okay. But parenting during this time is difficult. It's absolutely difficult. And I can imagine that it was difficult during my mother and father's time of raising us too. But it's an interesting at this day and time to raise her and trying to make sure that she doesn't grow up too fast with the stuff that's been happening in the world. Hope that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Going to change gears a little bit here now and talk a little bit about the ACA presidency and
Okay.
Your experience. So you served as ACA president for about, getting close to maybe 10 months now. Tell us what you thought the job would be like when you were elected, what you've discovered it's really like.
I didn't seek the office at first. It wasn't a priority. It wasn't anything that I ever wanted. I didn't see it in my future. I had opportunities that allowed me to be in spaces that allowed me to be in the leadership pathway to become ACA president. And when others and I understood that, my mentors basically knew that. They was like, well, you are in a position to be able to run for ACA president. You should run for ACA president. And that was what sparked it. It wasn't until I started to recognize that it had been 20 some odd years not before you, but since you had been president of the organization. And then I kept hearing from all the Black brothers that I hang out with in counselor education who were like, you need to run and we need to see you and we need you there. And so it became a mission to run only because I felt obligated to continue the tradition and to put somebody in that space. So what I expected was the ability to show up as an African American male and show that leadership could be good and the same and important to the future of our organization, regardless of who was in the seat. And it was really important for me to share that message. I wanted people to recognize that I wasn't going to come in and muck things up. I was coming in, I have the intelligence and the ability, and I have the leadership ability to help run this organization. And so that's what I wanted to show up as. So that's what I was hoping. Then I got here. And it showed up a little bit differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly that was my experience 20 some odd years ago, that there's a big difference between sort of the illusion and the reality. The illusion is one thing, and then when you get in there, it's totally different. Not that it's necessarily kind of a negative kind of thing to have that happen, but at the same time, it is kind of a punch in the face to realize, well, is this what I really signed up for?
It's really what you signed up for.
Well, Dr. Butler, thank you so much for this first half of this. We're coming up on break time now. And we'll take a quick break. And when we come back, I've got a few more questions that I'd like to ask you, particularly related to your experience as ACA president and sort of where you see ACA going post your presidency as we move into the future. So let's take a quick break at this point.
Counselors help positively impact lives by providing support, wellness, treatment. We're working to change lives. We are creating a world where every person has access to the quality, professional counseling, and mental health services needed to thrive.
Welcome back. Today we are doing an interview with Dr. S. Kent Butler, the 70th president of the American Counseling Association. So, Dr. Butler, the next question I want to ask you relates to an award that you basically have funded for ACA. And this award is known as the Butler Transformative Impact Award. And it was created to recognize DE&I champions who impact their communities. So help us understand why you believe this type of recognition is needed.
So for often, I'm not again, I said earlier that I'm not really an award hawk. And so what I truly wanted was an award that can be given to someone that other people saw the impact of their ways, right? The things that they've been doing, and it had the ability to help someone to kind of continue to do the work that they've been doing in the different communities that they were working in. And so I thought about transformation and transformative, and all through Barack Obama's presidency was about transformation and people doing things, impactful things to help move individuals. And so I'm really strong into mentorship and all these things. And I wanted it to go to someone who didn't seek it, but was given. It was like almost like one of those lifetime achievement awards that they get at the Oscars or something like that, where somebody didn't know they were going to get this, that somebody was thinking in the back about, hey, this person really is deserving of this. I think CNN does these Heroes Awards and things along those lines. So that was the impetus behind it, right? That somebody in the counseling community who was actually out there doing the social justice work that helped move nations and change lives was out there. I don't appreciate awards, and I probably shouldn't be saying this out loud, but I don't appreciate awards where people try to get nominated for them or nominate themselves for them, and a lot of times it seems like there's just this pattern of, okay, they got this award and they go to the next award and then they go to the next award, and it's like we're rewarding these people who are just really good at putting in award packages. And so it became really important that how do you send a message that you really want people who see something in someone to really nominate them for the work that they've done. And so that's really the important piece. And hopefully that you see in someone that they've done something that impacted a school, that impacted a neighborhood, a community, that impacted lives. And you just wanted to reward them or give them the opportunity to showcase who they have been, that they didn't even know that they were being sought of in that manner, but they received it because of the work that they've been doing.
Now, so this will be sort of a different kind of nomination and selection process for this award. It won't be people not self-nominating or.
Well, I don't think you can ever get away with that, right? I think that there are going to be people who say, hey, I want this award, so can you nominate me for it? I think that's going to happen. That's not what my hope is for the award. Let's put it that way. My hope is that somebody has just been impacted by what they've seen somebody do and just wants to nominate them for it. And so that's really what the hope is. But again, we're humans and we're going to do what humans do. And I think that, but I want hopefully the recipients, and I'm not involved with it. I'm not involved with who becomes the recipient. I put that all into the hands of the ACA Awards Committee, but I hope that the criteria for the award helps them to find somebody who has really made an impact.
Let's talk a little bit about the ACA staff for a minute. I think a lot of listeners, members of the association, don't really realize how crucial the staff is to the operation of ACF. It goes beyond crucial. Without the staff, there would be no ACA. And I think those of us who've had the honor of serving as ACA president find out in a very, very real way what the staff does for us, the leaders, but also for our members and for the profession overall. In your year as president, what have you come to realize about the ACA staff?
That they're phenomenal, but I knew that before. One of the things that this leadership role has provided for me, or this journey, I should say, has provided for me, is that when I was doing the work as a conference chairperson, I already worked with a lot of staff. So I got to know them. And one of the things I think that everybody, especially leaders, need to do and know is get to know the people who work with you and around you, and treat them with the respect that they deserve for the types of things that they are doing, and acknowledge who they are and allow them to do what they do. So the staff is really important and essential, like you said, to the operation of the organization. And as volunteer leaders, sometimes we sit on the outside and say, well, why did this happen? Or why did that happen? Without any real understanding of the full picture. So we can come in and see something from one angle or whatever have you, but when we don't necessarily take into the fact that our CEO is looking over the entire organization, has to dot the I's and cross the T's for everything that's going on within the association, then you start to see things differently. So when I came in and got to see it, also all of the different things, then my perspective on, okay, why did that happen before? Why this happened? And why is it going in this direction? It changed because I started to see that there was levels, there were patterns, there were this connection and that connection and dotted lines and cross lines that really help keep the operation flowing. So when you think about the operation of the organization, what we did from a advertising and marketing perspective, what we've done from looking at our government relations, when we look at what's happening with what counselors need in the field, all these different things, then publications and all these things, they have to come together to make up our entire organization. The staff does that. And there's only 60 of them. And when you think about it, the work that they have done for the association under the leadership of the governing council and the president to follow the strategic plan and all those different things, they have done nothing but miraculous work. And because of it, we're a very thriving organization that will continue to do the work that we do. It doesn't matter who the president of the association is. What really matters is that we have the people who are doing the work on the ground, boots on the ground, so to speak, to make sure that we are always thriving as an organization. And so the staff is everything.
And to think for the last 2 years, they've done all that remotely.
Remotely, right.
Wonderful thing.
Yeah, and one of the problems with remote sometimes is that you don't know how to disconnect. And our staff, we have to make sure that they are taking care of themselves and that there's wellness there, and that they know that they're appreciated. And so one of the things that I know that our CEO does, Rich Yap, is to make sure that the staff understands and knows that they are greatly appreciated. And as volunteers, leaders, we need to also let them know that the work that they're doing is important. It's very easy to be on the outside looking in, thinking that you know all the things. That's one way to answer your question. As a president coming in, you may think, okay, they should be doing this, and that. But if you don't understand the operation of it all, then you can come in and kind of disrupt and not necessarily allow them to continue to do their jobs, because they were hired to do their jobs for their expertise. And by no way, shape, or form does the president come in for 1 year, know the ins and outs of what happens in the organization.
Let's do some futuring now. Let's kind of think about the future a little bit. So you're the 70th president now of ACA. So 3 decades from now, ACA will elect its 100th president. So I want you to look into your crystal ball. What do you hope that person will see in our profession and within ACA?
I think the profession needs to grow with regards to how we work with our clients, how we see our clients. We've been doing a lot of work when it comes to social justice and multicultural counseling and things along those lines. I would love for us to get to a point in our profession where we just don't even have to think about multiculturalism and social justice. It's just what we do. And so 30 years from now, I would hope that practitioners and those who are helping to create practitioners will understand that they have to get out of their own way. And they have to see the world for what the world is. And they have to allow people to come to this space able to be themselves, their authentic selves, so that they can find their wellness. And when we try to package it so that, hey, we got this great thing, you should come and do this, and we don't think about the person who's sitting across from us, that we are doing the harm. And our role is to not do any harm, right? But we do harm when we try to act as if there's only one way to do this counseling thing. We have to be multifaceted. We have to be able to think fast on our feet. We need to be able to be creative and actually help our clients find their wellness. Not make it for them, but help them find it and be smart enough to get out of the way when they are doing it. I often think about the textbooks, and one of the reasons why I wanted to put out a textbook was the textbook is the blueprint. Mm-hmm. And everybody seems to think that if you do what's in the textbook, you will be the best counselor ever. And that is such a lie. There's nothing about that textbook that's going to make you a great counselor. It's about you becoming a counselor. And you have to understand what that means, how you can develop the rapport and to build the relationships and actually go out and make sure there's policies and things in place that don't send people who you help become well back into broken systems. Mm-hmm. And so that's my hope for 30 years from now, is that we understand that we have a full picture look at what it is to help somebody become whole. Mm-hmm. And it isn't just them walking out of our office with some aha moment. It's them walking back into a community, into a society that's accepting them for who they are as a human being.
Final question. You and I have the distinct honor of being the only 2 African-American men ever elected as ACA president. What does this say to you from a historical perspective, but also as you look forward, especially in light of the fact that for the very first time in ACA's history, ACA will have 2 African-American presidents in a row. You, and then Dr. Kim Frazier, who will begin her term this July.
First Latinx male after him.
Correct.
For her. And so, I guess the first thing that comes to my mind when you said that is, why did it take so long? But the other thing that comes in is like, I'm glad it was me. And that's because of the relationship that I cultivated with you over the years. When I first came into the profession, you were the trailblazer. You were the person that everybody was looking up to in regards to that. And I didn't know how you saw me. Early on, I was like, he can take me or leave me, I'm quite sure. It wasn't until you gave me a call and asked me to be a part of a group that you were forming for counselor educators, for Black counselor educators, that I knew that you saw me. Um, and that's important. That's really important, because as a person who's pretty introverted, I didn't necessarily know how to gravitate towards individuals. Mentors that I had in my life, and I count you one of them, are people that the relationship became organically, right? I didn't go seeking, so to speak, um, mentors, but mentors opened themselves to me because I was able to get out of my own way. Again, like I said, people to get out of their own way, I needed to get out of my own way, because I couldn't let myself continue to stay a shy, introverted person over in the corner. But there was something that was very impactful by getting that phone call saying, hey, I need you to come and we're going to do this, and let's get this thing together. That let me know that I had a voice, and that my voice mattered, and that I could do that. And so that's what I want to do for other people as well. I hope to bring people along and recognize, you and I have had this conversation before, when somebody walks up to me at a conference and say, hey, I saw you do this and whatever, it takes me aback, because I wasn't here to do it for that, right? And so when somebody says, I've been following your this and you're following your that, and thank you for this piece or whatever, in a very weird way, it's what I wanted, but I didn't know it was happening. And I don't know how to say that. I don't know if you can say it, but it's just really weird to know that when you try to put good stuff out there into the atmosphere, you're hoping that it's out there for good and that it's having an impact, but you don't know, right? You just don't know. So, but when somebody comes up to you and says something about something that you did 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 days ago, and tells you that it impacted them, it's humbling, but it's also daunting. And I don't know how. I hope I'm making sense. I don't know if it's resonating with you, but I think that what I hope that my being president brings to the community is realism, authenticness. I want to be vulnerable before folks, to let them know that this wasn't an easy task to be here. This presidency has, I have to bring in a new CEO. We had to bring in a strategic plan this year. There's so many different things that have happened for this organization to run. And someone said to me that you were the right person in the right time. And that's a lot on your shoulders and I feel that it was important for me to be here. It was important for me to have not won a year before I won. It was important for me to be here in this moment during Black Lives Matter. It was important for me to be here in this moment with the bringing in of a new CEO. All these things happen for a reason. And it's somewhat mind-boggling, but I'm up for the task, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to do that. And I'm equally proud of the fact that I have a relationship with you that has blossomed, and I mean, people don't understand it, but when you can call somebody up on the phone and they answer, it means a lot. Or if you send a text or whatever and say, hey, I need to talk with you, and they say, hey, and you can do that, it means a lot. And your career has really been one in which it's the motto, right? You leave a legacy. And I hope to leave a legacy, not because it's important to me, what's important to the future of counseling, especially the future of African American males. Um, and I'm going to own that. That's why I'm doing this. That might be the selfish part of it, but I also know that my leadership matters, and I think I'm doing a pretty damn good job.
Yes, I would concur with that. We're just about out of time, Dr. Butler. I want to thank you very, very much for taking time today to do this. I think I've learned a lot more about you, and I think hopefully our audience has as well. I want to offer you my continued support and wish you the best of luck as you wrap out your year as president of ACN. I look forward to seeing you next month in Atlanta at the conference.
The conference is going to be phenomenal. I'm so excited for it. And this will most likely be a broadcast a little after the conference, but I am so excited for what the conference will bring to our community. First time back in 3 years. And we're going in like gangbusters. We're going to make it happen. So a little bit different.
Well, I want to thank everyone for listening and watching today. And Dr. Butler, again, thank you very much.
I appreciate spending some time with you.